Have you ever found yourself in a relationship wondering why you keep falling for people who don't treat you right? Or maybe you keep pushing people away, even though deep down you want connection more than anything else. Maybe you're the type who always feels like you're too much or not enough, constantly trying to prove you're lovable, even if no one ever asked you to. There's a reason for all of it, and it doesn't start with your first crush, your high school heartbreak, or even your last relationship. It starts way earlier, before you even understood what love really meant. This one childhood experience can silently shape everything about how you love, who you love, and how you let yourself be loved as an adult. It's something that most people don't even realize is affecting them until it's too late, until patterns repeat, hearts break, and they're left wondering what went wrong. Again. It all goes back to one word: attachment. Now hold on. Before you click off or think this is about clingy partners or being too attached, let's get something straight. Attachment doesn't mean obsession. It doesn't mean you text back too fast or want to cuddle a lot. Attachment is something your brain builds long before you even learn to tie your shoes. It's how you first learn to connect with people, especially the ones you depended on the most. Think about it like this. When you were a baby, you couldn't walk, couldn't talk, couldn't feed yourself, couldn't protect yourself. You were completely dependent on someone, usually your parent or caregiver, and how they responded to your needs. That's where the story begins. If when you cried, someone picked you up, fed you, held you, looked at you with warm eyes, your brain registered the world as safe. You felt seen. You felt loved. That became your blueprint for relationships. When I reach out, people respond. I am worthy of care. But if your cries were ignored, or if your caregiver was hot and cold, loving one minute and distant the next, your brain learned something very different. It learned that love is unpredictable, that your needs might not be met, that you have to work to be noticed, that maybe, just maybe, you're too much to handle, or not enough to keep someone around. This is what psychologists call attachment theory, and it's not just some idea from a dusty textbook. It's the invisible script running in the background of your adult relationships, playing out over and over again until you either become aware of it or let it keep running your life. There are 4 main types of attachment styles: secure, anxious, avoidant, and disorganized. Let's break them down quickly. People with a secure attachment style grew up with consistent, responsive care. They learned that people are trustworthy. So as adults, they're comfortable with intimacy, but also with independence. They're not afraid of getting close, and they don't freak out when someone needs space. Relationships feel like a safe place, not a battlefield. Then there's the anxious attachment style. These are the people who love deeply, but often fear abandonment. They might overanalyze texts, feel insecure without constant reassurance, and become overwhelmed by thoughts like, what if they don't love me back? This usually comes from inconsistent caregiving, parents who were sometimes loving, but sometimes emotionally unavailable. The message becomes, I need to fight for love, or it might disappear. Next is the avoidant attachment style. These people learned early that expressing needs didn't lead to connection. It led to rejection or being ignored. So they learned to shut down. As adults, they might seem independent to the point of being distant. They avoid emotional intimacy because deep down, they don't trust it. It's safer to keep people at arm's length. And then there's the disorganized attachment style, the most complex and painful. This often comes from early trauma, neglect, or abuse. For these individuals, love and danger were sometimes the same thing. So they crave closeness, but fear it at the same time. Relationships can feel confusing, chaotic, and emotionally intense. Now here's the twist. These attachment styles don't just show up in how we love others. They show up in how we treat ourselves. If you grew up feeling unseen, you might ignore your own needs. If you grew up feeling abandoned, you might abandon yourself just to keep someone else around. Let's go deeper with a real story. Meet Lily. She's 24, working her first real job, living in a small city apartment with her cat and a Spotify playlist that feels like a comfort blanket. From the outside, she looks like she's doing fine, but inside, her heart's been hurting for years. Lily has a pattern. Every relationship she's been in has started like a dream. The spark, the laughter, the feeling of being chosen. But within months, things shift. She starts to feel anxious, panicked even, if her partner doesn't text back quickly. She overthinks everything. Did I say something wrong? Are they losing interest? Why do I feel like I'm too much? She tells herself she's just sensitive. But what she doesn't realize is that she's carrying a wound from childhood. When Lily was little, her mom struggled with depression. Some days, she was loving, making pancakes, dancing in the kitchen. Other days, she barely got out of bed. Lily never knew which version of her mom she'd get, so she learned to stay alert. She learned to perform, to please, to be good, so maybe, just maybe, her mom would be okay. Now, as an adult, Lily is still that little girl, deep down, trying to be good enough to keep love from slipping away. It wasn't until she read about attachment theory on a random blog post at 2 a.m. that something clicked. She cried for 2 hours straight. Not because of what she read, but because she finally felt understood. Her pain wasn't just random. It had a root, and it wasn't her fault. That's the power of understanding your childhood attachment experience. It doesn't erase the pain, but it gives it a name. And once you can name it, you can start healing it. Lily started therapy. It wasn't easy. At first, she hated being vulnerable. She kept waiting for her therapist to get tired of her, to stop showing up, the way people always seem to. But session after session, the therapist stayed, listened, validated. And slowly, Lily began to trust. She started journaling. She wrote letters to her younger self, the little girl who just wanted to feel safe. She started setting boundaries. She learned that love doesn't have to feel like a test, that being enough isn't about doing, it's about being. And over time, her relationships began to shift. She stopped chasing people who made her feel small. She started recognizing red flags sooner. And eventually, she found someone who didn't trigger her deepest fears, but instead helped soothe them. Her story isn't unique. It's the story of millions of people who grow up with wounds they can't explain until they learn where to look. That childhood experience, the way your caregivers responded to your emotional needs, creates the lens through which you see every relationship after. It's not just about who hurt you, it's about how you learn to survive. Some people survived by becoming invisible. Others survived by becoming perfect. Some survived by pushing people away before they could leave. And some tried to fix everything and everyone just to feel safe. But the truth is, what helped you survive as a child can hurt you in adulthood. That's why awareness is so powerful. It lets you pause. It lets you say, wait, I'm not crazy. I'm just reacting from a wound that was never healed. And healing doesn't mean becoming a perfect partner. It means learning how to be a safe space, for yourself first. It means recognizing when your anxiety is really your inner child crying for reassurance. It means realizing that someone else's inability to love you properly doesn't mean you're unlovable. It's learning how to reparent yourself, to become the stable, loving, consistent presence that maybe you never had growing up. To give yourself what no one else gave you until you're not desperate for it from someone else. You're not broken, you're wired. Wired by experiences that weren't your fault. But now that you see them, the wiring can be changed. And if you're wondering whether people really change, yes, they do. The brain is amazing. It can literally rewire itself with time, patience, and love. It's called neuroplasticity. And it means you're not stuck. You don't have to keep dating the same kind of person. You don't have to keep repeating the same heartbreak. You don't have to stay in survival mode. You can create secure attachment. You can learn how to feel safe with closeness. how to trust that love doesn't always end in pain, how to recognize when you're reacting from fear rather than truth. And here's something beautiful. The more you heal, the more you attract relationships that reflect that healing. When you stop trying to earn love, you start attracting people who love you without conditions. When you stop abandoning yourself, you stop tolerating people who abandon you. Because your relationship with yourself sets the tone for every other relationship you have. So the next time you find yourself spiraling in love, overthinking, shutting down, chasing, pulling away, pause. Ask yourself, what does this remind me of? Chances are, it's not just about the person in front of you. It's about a moment from childhood, when you learned what love felt like. Whether that love was warm and consistent or distant and confusing, it left an imprint. But imprints can fade, patterns can break, and your past doesn't have to decide your future. That one childhood experience doesn't have to define you. But understanding it? That might just be the beginning of everything. The beginning of loving differently, of choosing differently, of showing up for yourself in ways no one ever did. Because when you heal the root, everything else begins to bloom. What's your take on this? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective.